And I hope that everyone is doing well and everyone's being safe, in particular, those who are in the performing arts space. I know that a lot of the musicians and artists and performers are in a space now where they're not doing what they're bred or they know they want to do. And I feel for you. I feel for you in immense ways, and I wish that I had the multitude to be able to bring enough money and resources together to provide an opportunity and a platform for all of y'all to continue to do what you're doing, because I just love everything that you do and I appreciate it. So shout out to all the performing artists that are out there. You're listening and watching the Trenton 365 show. I am the host, Jacque Howard, as you can see on the screen. You can always find what I'm doing by looking up the hashtag Trenton and the numbers 365. You can also find me on the website and a bunch of different other social media platforms and different activism movements or activation movements, etc. So tonight is one of the, just like his kickoff that I'm doing to intentionally reach out to folks who I know who are performing artists, and just to kind of give a different look on who they are, because I know a lot of them are in a tough spot, but there's also a lot of them who are doing really well. But I just want to kind of almost normalize their profession as a performing artist more so than it is for most people, so that they can encourage others to do it, and then most importantly, they can support them, because oftentimes when these artists are gone, that creativity that is gone. It's with them. It's trapped inside of them, and they've been working to get it out. So my monologue of sorts, but without publicly, I want to say this. I was just talking to Brad before we got started. I have Brad Marquis, who's going to be coming on, but I'll do a bit more of a formal interview in a moment. But just before we started recording, I wanted to publicly, or tell him personally, which I'm going to say publicly, that I knew he was a performing artist and knew he was good. I've seen some of his stuff, but the more that I look deeper into his work, the more respect I have for him, and I just got done sharing that with him, and I want to say it publicly, folks. Oftentimes, I'm going to be bringing you musicians and folks who, trust me, if I'm bringing them to you, just keep your eye on them. Just keep your eye on them. Trust me, just keep your eye on them. There's some amazing stuff there. So without any more of my time taking away from Brad's, I want to introduce you formally. Welcome to the Trenton 365 show, Brad Marquis. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the wonderful, kind words, man. I appreciate it. Bottom of my heart, man.
Yeah.
I've been doing this. Is funny, man. I've been doing this for Trenton for a very long time, and I've shouted out Trenton everywhere I've gone and everywhere I've been. And it's just funny. I tell my wife all the time, man. I was like, it's just funny that you got to go other places for people to find out about you. You gotta, I had to go to New York and had to go around the world for Trenton to be like, oh shit, he's ours.
And even still, some are
Yeah,
like, I remember he when he wasn't that good.
yeah. I mean, but there's levels to this, man. There's different reasons for those comments, and I paid none of them any attention. I learned a long time ago, man. You got to detach yourself from all of that. Because you don't want your whole existence to be dictated by other people's opinions, even though your professional existence is kind of dictated by other people's opinions. So it's a very intricate, line to balance, a balancing act you have to do within your own emotional mental space.
Mhm. So Brad, when we think about your, I guess, recognizing that you had this talent, right?
Mhm.
Um, when did it happen to you, and what was that almost like aha moment of sorts,
Man, it
or
was
was there one?
yes, there was an aha moment. People probably wouldn't believe me because I had done so much when it actually happened. I had been around the world and performed on many and been on tours with major artists and all of that before I even had an aha moment. It was actually in for context, I've been performing since I was about 4 years old. My grandparents and everybody, they threw me in front of the church, and I was singing at Union Baptist until I was about 12, in Bennington. And I traveled. My family had had a gospel group called Family and Friends, and they were kind of like Kirk Franklin and the Family back in the day. And we just traveled all over New Jersey, and I don't even say just New Jersey, we all over the East Coast performing in church after church after church. And I was that little kid on the bus, just sucking it all up, taking it all in, and so I've been performing, since I was about 4 to 12, and I would be that kid that forget the lines to my song and they have to start the whole song over in church. And I was that guy, nervous as all get out. So when I moved out of Jersey when I was about 12 and moved to Ohio, and I kind of got away from music, and I didn't get back into it until I was about 17, 18, going off into college. Um, like I said, I had performed, I think I was about 28, 29, 30. And like I said, for that time, I had been on 106 and Park. I had been on the Apollo. I had been on tour with Jaheim and Tamia and this, that, and the other. And I still didn't feel like an artist. It wasn't until I got to, I auditioned for a musical in Buffalo, New York. And it was funny, the director, they had heard about me. Um, and she flew down from Buffalo, New York to interview me in a restaurant. Mad people, hundreds of people in the restaurant, and they wanted me to read for the part in a restaurant, around all of those people. So I read for the part. I know I was crappy. I know I wasn't good, but she saw something in me. And her name was Lorna Hill. She recently passed away, God rest her soul. But she brought me to, she gave me a residency in Buffalo, New York, and I went to work. Like, I just did not want to be a bum. I did not want to be a loser. I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. They paid for me to live in a hotel for 6 months, and I trained like I was Rocky about to fight Apollo Creed, running steps, running the blocks. Because what I was I was Adam in the Garden of Eden, in an Oscar Brown Jr. play. It's called In the Beginning, and I was Adam. And so I was on stage, and one of the main reasons I wanted to do it, because it stripped me raw. Like, it was me on stage in a leotard, no shirt, no shoes, a nude colored leotard with a dancer's belt. I don't think you can get any more uncomfortable than that. Especially me, I'm a man, I'm a man.
Yeah.
So to put me in some tights, on stage, and that was nuts. And I wasn't much of a dancer in choreography. I had to learn how to pick up choreography and dance. And I had to, we had an ensemble. We had, obviously a lot of moving parts. It was a 2-hour play, and regardless if it was 5 people in the building or 200 people in the building, I had to give that same show, and we did it 4 days a week for 4 months, 4 days every week for 4 months. And after that experience, I was like, I'm ready. I'm official. This is what I do. This is who I am. You can't tell me nothing, and from that moment, that's when, a lot of stuff, the Sam Cooke show was born out of that. Like, because I wanted, when I stepped out of that, I wanted to continue doing, I wanted to continue that. So I put together a 1-man Sam Cooke show,
No,
and
no, wait. I am not going to let you ruin where I got this written down, where this interview is going. No, we are not going there right now. You sit tight. I'll give you some respect, but right now, my man. So to elaborate on that, Brad, I've heard performing artists of various types who have said acting like in a musical is totally different than whether you're just dancing or whether you're just singing or performing with an instrument. And I can't relate to that, but how would you explain that to me?
well, in my musical, not all musicals are like this, but my musical was, um, it was written so my everybody's parts interacted with each other. It was rhyming, singing, all of that stuff. So my parts had to work with the part before mine, had to work with the part after mine. So it was a timing thing, it was a delivery thing. Like, so when I'm on stage by myself, it's just me. I don't have to coordinate with anybody else. I'm not trying, I don't have to spit the lines, verbatim. When I can do a lot more improv when it's just me versus when you're in a musical, especially in a musical where where your parts intertwine with other people's parts. Different kind of musicals, not all musicals are like that, but specifically when you're on stage in a play, it's more interactive with everybody else on stage, and there's timing issues. There's, like I said, it could be your lines, it could be the music, it could be anything that connects bring the whole thing together. Whereas if I'm on stage doing a quote unquote Brad Marquis show, it's me and the band's pretty much following whatever I do. So if I decide to go left, they better follow me left. If I go right, they better follow me right. You might not get on the next gig. So it's really just it's me up there. So that there's a straight difference in that.
And I'm glad you put it that way because, a lot of the musicians who I know and I've spent time around, um, they've made it very clear that someone has to know who's in charge.
Mm-hmm,
Because if not, it can go awry
mm-hmm,
very quickly.
mm-hmm,
And this interview will be coming up at some point again. But I remember someone I know who plays with a famous with a internationally known superstar, and was told by the previous person who was playing their position, said to him, "They're not going to care if so and so messes up back here. All they're thinking about is
me.
who's out front." Yep.
They're looking at me.
And you just nailed it. And your face changed and everything. Brad, Brad, I got it, right?
They
So
looking. It don't matter what you do. It don't matter. They care about how the song starts and they care about how the song ends. The stuff in the beginning, they kind of might miss it. But if the show was not a great show and maybe the band's not tight, man, I got stories. But I got stories. But if the band's not tight, they're not worried about the band. They're looking at me because I'm the one who hired the band. I'm the one who put it together. It's my music, it's my songs. I'm the fall guy. And so you have, it's your responsibility as the artist to hire the right people. Even if you're not musically inclined, where you're writing music or playing music or anything like that, or even can hear it, the way you need to hear it, you better hire somebody who can.
there you
Your
go. There
music
you go.
director better be able to complement the things that you don't do.
My man. So, all right. So, Brad, let's check this out. Let's talk now about, you said you grew up in the church. You were that young person who was singing in church at a young age. You were on the basically touring the East Coast, going to churches with family members. Like you grew up in this, almost like it was part of life for
Mhm,
you. Um,
mhm,
I know there's a lot of folks out there who may not have that kind of familial support
mhm.
in the creative arts or in a particular endeavor. I know that's not your situation, but what would you like to say to those parents that are out there, and maybe even some of the children who are scratching to get involved in this industry?
Well, what? Now I have a child of my own, and I'm trying not to push him into the things that I love. I'm trying to allow him to let me know expose him to things, and then let me know what he likes, and then I'll just try and push him towards what he likes, and help him do whatever he needs to do, in the areas of interest, in his areas of interest. And that's what I would say to any parent, man. Just figure out what your kid likes to do, what he's good at, what he's great at, what he's good at, he or she is good at, may not necessarily be what they want to do, quite honestly. But just find out what they're passionate about, and then just help them to the degree where you're not being obsessive or overbearing, or taking the fun out of it for them. Because at an early age, that's what it is about. It's about fun earlier on. When they get into high school, they get older, then it could be about the business of it. When they're old enough to understand the positives and negatives and X, Y, and Z, and the responsibilities of X, Y, and Z. But those earlier years when they're just getting exposed, it's just about having fun. And if you remove the fun from it, they're not going to want to do it, regardless of how great they are at it. They're not going to want to do it when they're older. So it's just all right. Once you've identified what they're great at, just have fun with them. Be a part of it. They like playing football, play football. They like playing play bait. In a fun way. I've seen parents out here with 5-year-olds trying to treat them like they LeBron James at the NBA championships. And I'm like, come on, come on. Yelling at them because they ain't catch it. You can't even catch the football. How you going to yell at them because they can't catch it? Like I've seen some ridiculous things, but don't strip the fun out of it for them, because that's what's gonna, make them gravitate to it and then make them want to be great at it. Hopefully later on in life.
That's great, Brian. Thank you so much. I know everybody can't see me busting up laughing over here, but dude, this is crazy. All right, so your time in Buffalo,
Mhm,
New York.
mhm.
You get this like aha movement. You're doing something you haven't done. I know you're away from home. I'm sure you had experience traveling, but I'm sure you kind of felt like, yo, I got my wings. I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Take us from there, right, into like how things transition to Sam Cooke.
Oh my god, there's two. There's see that's loaded. Now I can just go right into Sam Cooke, or I can come off of Buffalo, because coming off of Buffalo, I felt everything just crumbled around me.
And that's what I want you to share, because what I want to end up telling folks is that although I'm bringing amazing stories and amazing folks to them,
Mhm,
these are human beings who
mhm,
have peaks and valleys. But
right,
the idea of weathering it and carving out who you are in this is
right,
what makes you persevere and you become that diamond.
right. That was, like I said, Buffalo kind of was like a peak for me. It wasn't the peak, but it was a peak. And I just knew I was on to bigger and better and greater things. I had a dope management group at the time. Again, like I said, I had been overseas around the world. I had been everywhere, from New Zealand, France, Europe. I had been all over the place. I had, again, on tour every year with Tamia and Jaheim, India Ari, and Gordon Chambers, like you name it. I had been on the Apollo. Came runner up to winning the Apollo. I won 106 in Park. Soul Singer of the Year, got that award. Like, so I'm riding high. I'm thinking I'm doing it. And I, my management group was supposed to be negotiating a contract with a record label in New Zealand. Well, I would get like 20,000 to work on a joint project with some artists over there, and they tried to push for more money, and the deal just slammed. And they say, forget it. We're already against the wall getting you 20,000, and so we don't have, we're just gonna dump the deal. Well, I didn't have anything else on the table after that. I had the money that I had saved from the residency, but I had given up my apartment in New York and all that stuff to move to Buffalo to do that. So when I had to leave Buffalo and come back here, I had to move in with mom, because I didn't have anywhere else to go. I didn't, and obviously coming from Buffalo, I didn't have an opportunity um, to find an apartment or whatever. Nor did I have the proper finances or job to sustain an apartment in New York had I gotten one.
Mhm.
So I had to move back to Trenton, live with my mom, and try and really just build from scratch, because after my management crew messed up that deal, they want to get adios and not be responsive to my emails, phone calls, and things of that nature. Without and not telling me they were going in a different direction. They decided to go in a different direction because of their mistake.
Mhm.
And so now I'm just left holding the bag, and I was like, you know what, I have to do something. I have to do something. So I started down the road of putting together another album, which turned into Authentic. And I wanted to continue my acting chops, so I decided to I was sitting with a friend one day. Well, actually, it had two things happen. One, when I was working with Murder Inc., my guy Buck 3000, he was the engineer over there, and the guy who mixed all the records, and Grammy Award winning engineer. And he used to tell me, Brad, you look so much like Sam Cooke. You look so much like Sam Cooke. And this was before the Buffalo stuff. So when I came back from Buffalo, my friend, I was sitting in her house, and she was like, oh my God, you remind me so much of Sam Cooke. And she gave me this book called Dream Boogie. It was a Sam Cooke story, autobiography. And she gave me the book, and I read it, and I just saw so much of myself in him. And then I started researching him and studying all his music. And then it dawned on me, wow, my grandparents used to play him in the Soul Stirrers all the time when I was a kid. And I knew a lot of the music, but I didn't remember, I remembered the music, but I didn't remember, I didn't realize it was Sam Cooke who was the one singing it all. So after studying him, I mean, when I say study the man, I mean, But when time I got on that stage, I had all of his mannerisms, facial expressions. I had it down pat, man. Had all his songs, inflections, I had it down pat. It was like 3 months immersed into just Sam Cookeness. So I did that show, and it was a smash hit. But and since then, that was 2009. Here we are in 2020, and I've had about 3 or 4 different iterations of that show. It went from me telling kind of my story within his, how it related, to just taking me out of it and telling his story. And now, it's evolved into, you know, um, I've added a lot of this, because of the impact, and the more I've studied him, um, the social justice piece, the civil rights piece of his life has grown within my show. And it went from like a 1 hour, it went from like a 45-minute show to an hour show. Now it's a 2 hour show with like with a 15-minute intermission. But a lot of it is, like, I tell his story, and you see him, Sam, achieving all these great goals, and, first, Black R&B artist, soul artist to do this, or he was one of the innovators of soul music, period, him and Ray Charles. So you see that ascension. You see him, helping other artists such as Lou Rawls and Bobby Womack and you name it. He was the head of the Dragon back in the day. Jackie Wilson, and you name it. He was the head of the Dragon back in the day before Motown. He was first artist to own his own publishing and own his own record label, and all of these wonderful things he was doing in a time where even Frank Sinatra and all these other artists weren't doing it. And then you see him evolve and having meetings with Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, and wanting to be more of an intricate player in the civil rights movement. Well, a few years ago, I decided to start incorporating more of that into my show. And then here we go with all this craziness that's been happening, and it just, over the years, it just made more and more and more sense. And so, now my show really tells his life, on the stage, and it talks about that aspect of his life off the stage, and the audience gets to juxtapose what they're seeing per se on American Bandstand versus what was happening when he walked off the stage and got back into the community. So you're on stage, and you got millions of people cheering for you, but you can't sit in the same restaurant with those people when he leaves the stage. You can't drink out of the same water fountain or go to the same bathroom as those same individuals who were just screaming and dancing to your music. So being able to get the audience to visualize both of the juxtaposition of that life, duality of that life, is what I try and tackle, what I tackle in the show.
Now, during times like this, there's generally always a segment of the population that rallies around a particular artist. So there's artists that, transcend after they've been, doing things for so long. When we think about Sam Cooke, it would seem like there would be a lot of people who would be just driven to wanting to kind of see this. What has the response been like?
Well, there's an issue with that, because Sam Cooke's old business partner owns 95+% of his material. When he was unceremoniously murdered. Still, a lot of cloudiness behind his murder. But he had partnered with some individuals, and when he died, they got his estate. So his family doesn't own his estate, and and the man who owns his estate, well, he's passed it down to his children. And they're very, very, I don't want to say they're intentionally letting his legacy die. I don't want to go that far, but they are very stingy and very picky about who they allow to license him or that music. Like, it is extremely, one of the most hardest things to do is to license Sam Cooke's music. That's why you've never heard a lot of artists do remakes of any of his music. And you don't see his likeness the way you would see Ray Charles or Marvin Gaye or you don't see him just everywhere as he should be, because he's the pioneer of soul music. So you should see him more and hear from him more and hear his story more and his legacy more. And I'm sure a lot of that goes back to his involvement in the civil rights movement. Like I said, me personally, it could be, my opinion, looking back, it could be a strategic attempt to eliminate, him from the history books, or his contribution from the history books. I don't want, I can't say that, 100%, but sometimes it just feels that way.
Hmm.
So you won't, um, but to speak to your point about how it's been received, I mean, dude, you know, I perform to thousands of people. When I step on the stage and do my Sam Cooke show now, or for the last 3 years, because I got an agent, I went out of my way. Man, I just solicited agents, sent the show out, this, that, and the other. And one of them came back to me, was like, yo, I've done this show before. I was able to get it licensed before, and you're great. And I want to, she came to see me, and now we've been working for 3 years, and she's gotten me, all of my 2020, all of my shows got pushed back to like 2022, like an exception of one, which is in February, but in Florida. But now I'm able to, when I jump on that stage, it is, 1,000, 15,000, 1,500, 2,000 people in the audience, that come to see Sam Cooke, see me do Sam Cooke, which is just phenomenal. And, one thing that I don't think, I think people would be so, astonished by, the last show I did, I think it was 1,200 people in the audience. And I guarantee you maybe 1,100 of them were white and over 40. White over 50, the majority of that audience. So that's what I see, unless I'm going to a predominantly Black community, the majority of people that come to see Sam Cooke are white, and I would say over 50, 45, 50.
I'll let that sit with everybody in the listening and viewing audience as I finish up.
They ain't gonna catch that.
I'll make sure they do. I'll make sure they do. Brad Marquis, as always, man, I appreciate seeing you, and I can't wait to see you in person and to see you perform. Thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate it. Anytime I'm here, man.
You got it, Brad. Thank you, sir. Folks, you've been listening and watching the Trenton 365 show. This will be distributed through a couple different networks, such as the Trenton 365 Performing Arts page as well. So you can also go to that page and check out some things. There's, I think, 1 or 2 videos of Brad doing his thing on there as well. So, folks, you've been listening and watching the Trenton 365 show. Thank you. And remember, it's always about justice, peace, and humility.
I can dig it.